Welcome to Your Yarmouth, your town's first official podcast. And today is our very first episode. And what a better way to kick things off than to talk to our town administrator. Meet him next. Welcome, Bob, to the set of Your Yarmouth. What do you think?
Well, thank you, Lori. It's great to be here. This is an amazing studio. You know, I've always dreamed about having a podcast, and now you've made it real, so this is amazing for me.
It has definitely come to reality. We had the idea. We wanted to make sure that the residents of Yarmouth were connected and that they knew what was going on in town. And what a better way to start our first episode is to talk to the guy that knows everything that's going on in town.
Oh, don't I wish.
So we're going to dive right into it. And first, I want to ask you, when did you first come to Yarmouth? How long have you been here? And where were you before?
Well, very interesting. In fact, I've been reflecting on that quite a bit lately. I'll be coming up very shortly within the next few months on 5 years of my 5th year anniversary here in Yarmouth. But all told, I'm celebrating this year in 2025, 40 years as a town manager in Massachusetts. And it's quite a major milestone.
That's definitely a major milestone. Why public service? What was your interest in that from the very beginning? 40 years is bragging rights for sure.
Well, it started off very early in my childhood. Both of my parents were career public servants. My dad, he worked for maybe 45 years for the state of Rhode Island. And my mom was also a teacher and public servant. So very early in life, public service was instilled in us. And when I went to college studying public administration and local government, really was a natural for me.
What was that first job that you had?
Well, my first job was the town manager of the town of Greenbush, Maine.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't understand this. In Maine, they have a lot of small communities, but they really want to have that professional town manager. So, of course, they appointed me town manager. But in addition, I was the town clerk, the treasurer, the tax collector, the road commissioner,
the go-to,
the overseer of the poor. I must have had 10 different titles, and also I could start my career. And after that, what's interesting, 35 years of those 40 years have been right here on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So I consider myself a wash ashore extreme, very immersed.
So even though you grew up in Rhode Island, you fell in love with Cape Cod like the rest of us?
Absolutely. What a gorgeous place to live. I've been so fortunate to be able to migrate. I consider myself worldly. I've traveled so far, but in reality, I live now less than 70 miles from the hospital that I was born on a beautiful location like this. So,
well, that's amazing. I do have a question that I get often, and it's, what's the difference between a mayor and a town administrator? Because a lot of people don't know what the difference is.
Well, that's easy. Of course, as a 40-year town manager, I've been taught to say mayors are evil. That's the major difference. And in reality, I'm really a good person to pose that question to, because after my stint in Greenbush, I also had occasion to work for a while in a city government with the mayor. I've done, both, and I'm in a good position to kind of evaluate the differences. And, essentially, a town manager or town administrator, very similar terms, is a professional that a community hires to manage the day-to-day operations of the community. And in our situation, we have the executive authority that's placed with a select board. Mm-hmm. And it really is a fabulous way to run the town government. Instead of having, in a mayoral form of government, they try to put all of the day-to-day, all of the executive authority in one person. And I think you lose a lot of the transparency there. Having that select board, you have a group of local citizens, local leaders that has a partnership with a day-to-day manager, and the manager can focus on efficiency, the staffing, the operating the departments, the long-term planning, the financial sustainability that residents depend on. And you have that select board that is the overarching policymakers, and we support them. And so that way, coupled with the way we manage town meeting, it makes the process much more transparent. It gives community members a much larger stakehold, and we don't need to consolidate all of the authority in too small of a group.
So what does that decision-making process look like at Town Hall, if you can explain it in layman's terms?
What's interesting, and a lot of people think that, it's like a black box that these crazy decisions come from with no input. But what's fascinating to know is that the process that we have at Town Hall is much more transparent than people think. There are so many public boards and committees that all of our major decisions flow through, and every one of those has a public posted meeting, minutes. You could trace every single major decision. Where did it come from? What was the debate? And the granddaddy of all, we have the town meeting. Nothing worth doing is done without going to town meeting first and inviting all of the residents to debate it and to make a vote. So there is much more transparency, I think, than people really imagine sometimes.
So that's a great segue to talk about town meeting, because a lot of people don't know how it works. They don't know that they physically go in person and vote on articles. Can you explain that a little bit to us?
Well, sure. To kind of demystify it, what people can wrap their brains around is that, generally speaking, you have in government an executive body and a legislative body. Like in the federal government, the legislative body is our Senate, the Congress. And at the local level, our legislative body is comprised not of elected officials, but of each and every local resident. So the town meeting is a meeting that's comprised of all local voters, and it serves as the legislative body. So any major laws, any major bylaws that are passed, any major spending, those all have to go in front of our legislature, which is comprised of you and me, just normal local residents, and they have to vote to approve any major thing that is done in the town.
So they're registered voters. They come to the school that night. They get a little card that says that they can vote. I'm a voter. And then what happens? Do they physically hold their hand up in the air when an article is talked about?
Physically hold your hand up in the air to vote. They have articles, which is a funny way of saying it's the agenda for the meeting. So every law that needs to be voted, every budget line that needs to be voted is presented in a series of agenda items or articles. And each one, they're separated out, so each one is independently, separately debated and voted on with your card in the air. And it's a beautiful thing, but a lot of people don't recognize how important it is to be at that town meeting.
Exactly.
Because if a law is passed, and we've got some very, interesting laws, there's not a law that is passed by anyone other than your neighbors. And if you're not at the meeting, you won't know, what the law is. And it's amazing how much impact one local voter can have by standing up and saying if you think something is right, it should be done, or if it's wrong.
So you mentioned the articles. What are some of the articles that you're really excited about this year?
Well, I'll tell you, we do have a special town meeting coming up November 17, and that's going to be at the Yarmouth Middle School over on Station Avenue. So we encourage everyone to come out 6:30 p.m., show up. That's a Monday. Usually we have them on Tuesdays, but the calendar is bringing it on Monday, and several very important articles. And in all sincerity, one of the most important things that we try to do as a community is provide the basic infrastructure, things like water that you drink, and to safeguard our public water supply. These are some of the most important infrastructure things our local government does. And, we have a couple of very important articles coming up on November 17 that are geared towards protecting that water supply from what we know as these forever chemicals that we've uncovered in different aspects of the environment. They're called PFAS, and all of the chemicals that come from various agents like degreasers or the non-stick coatings on the pans produce some chemicals that we need to get in and prevent from getting into the public water supply. And if they're found, they can be safely removed. and we've got a big project coming up to analyze our groundwater for potential contamination and to take specific safeguards to remove PFAS that is when it gets too close to some of our many water supply wells. So we're going to be doing some water supply protection. And there's another fascinating project coming up on this town meeting that we've been working for the past 5 years that I've been there to try to help limit the sound pollution that comes from the Cape Cod Gateway Airport that is located directly adjacent to Yarmouth residential properties. And we've come up with a process using a consultant that has identified some specific actions that we can take that would be a flight path change at the airport that would actually help planes get to their destinations quicker, but be diverted away from local residences. And we have some funding to help that consultant. We've been doing this in partnership with the airport, and they've agreed to have some roundtables with the FAA and the town, and we need town meeting to support these activities, and working in conjunction with the local voters. If they approve the funds, we maybe can directly impact some of that noise pollution that we have. We've got some other fascinating things. We're going to be doing plastic reduction. We have a new regulation that the Board of Health has recently adopted that will help remove over time all of the plastic that's used in the food service industry. And we need to rescind our old bylaw, obviously, to be replaced with these new Board of Health regulations, and that's something that's upcoming at the town meeting. Those are the types of things that we're doing. We've also got some zoning. I wanted to talk a little bit about the zoning because what a fun time that we've had in the last year or so in debating some of our local zoning. And it turns out, who would have thought on a beautiful oceanfront location like we have here in Yarmouth, that it is under the town's existing zoning illegal to sell lobsters from a fisherman that you've just caught out of your home. And anyone who knows anything about Yarmouth, it's been the talk of the town. But I'll tell you what, maybe not of the original zoning, but I'm particularly proud of the way this community and its elected officials and appointed officials on the planning board, they came together and rallied around this issue and decided that it's possible to sell fresh caught lobsters from one's home on a limited basis, with safeguards so that the neighborhood isn't, impacted so much, and in a way that helps people and provides fresh shellfish to, people love that here in town. So we're going to be adopting the zoning that empowers us to move forward. And what a great example of problems come up in a community. The community gets together, makes up the mind, we solve the problem, and then present it to the voters. And if the voters accept it, then we're going to move forward, and we're going to have lobsters for sale in Yarmouth again, which will be great. And there's another zoning that similar issue, waterfront community. It's illegal to park a boat in your driveway. So those are other laws that we're hoping to reform to, under certain guidelines to allow folks to have boats in their driveway. I mean, you'd think it would be something that they would have thought of, but for 50 years, we've steadfastly had a law on the books that has said you can't put a boat in your driveway. So that's another interesting thing that we've been working on, and that's going to come up November 17th. So if you're interested in that issue, just another idea to come out, have fun with us.
Yep, show up, vote, get your voices heard. And if they want to check out the warrant, they can go to our website, and all of it is explained right there. Thank you so much for joining us today. But before we let you go, we're going to end this episode with a couple of rapid fire questions. And we're going to do this for every guest that comes on. We're going to have a little bit of fun, Cape Cod style. Are you ready?
Okay, shoot.
All right. The easiest one, lobster roll, hot or cold?
Oh, it has to be cold. Little bit of mayonnaise, no butter.
Okay. Toasted? No toasted?
Toast the bun, not the lobster.
Not the lobster. Okay. Clam chowder, yay or nay?
Well, I have to tell you something. Clam chowder has to be either thin like water with no milk at all, or so thick that your spoon can stand up in it.
Oh, I agree.
Nothing in between. And nothing green ever.
Manhattan chowder, no. Is a no.
No, tomatoes, out. It curdles the milk.
Favorite Yarmouth beach and why?
Oh, that has to be Gray's Beach. We win the award year after year for the best sunset on Cape Cod. That's Gray's Beach.
I agree with that one too. Best event, best Yarmouth event.
Oh, hands down. St. Patrick's Day Parade.
I agree.
That's a fun one. And everyone comes from all over.
It is. It's such a great family event. And then the last one, if you're game, what's your hidden talent?
A hidden talent. Well, everyone has a hidden talent, they say. And mine is I'm a musician on the side when I'm not town managing. I practice my songs. And if anyone wants to see the town manager sing, I've got news for you. The Chamber of Commerce has invited me to sing a few songs at the Yarmouth Port Christmas Stroll this year on December 7 in Yarmouth Port. So I'll be out there. You can come by, say hi, maybe make a donation to a charity, and enjoy a wonderful event.
Well, you heard that here first, everybody listening and watching. And once again, thank you for joining us on our first official episode of the Your Yarmouth podcast. And thank you for watching us. And feel free to follow us on social media, our website, our YouTube channel, and you can find us anywhere that you get your podcast. Until next time.